everyone, thanks for coming back to the BNS channel. My name is EdieAnne. We're in my mobile office. Today we're going to talk about convincing versus guiding. We have all been in a situation where a child is in convincing mode. I just left my daughter and my 4-year-old grandson, and he goes into convincing mode quite often. And convincing mode is when you are trying to get somebody to do something they don't necessarily want to do, or to convince them that they do want to do it. For instance, anytime Noah wants to do something, he will try to convince his mom that it's the best idea in the world so that she will want to do it with him. I love seeing that in action because to me that builds that spirit, that's character. However, in the world of direct sales, probably not such a great thing. Convincing people to buy your product or to join your team sometimes can work, but in the long run, what happens is they determine at some point that it wasn't something they wanted to do. It wasn't something that they wanted to buy, but yet it was you that had convinced them to join or to buy. I've said in some previous videos, one of them is the gum analogy, which you could search on my channel, as well as share versus sell or sell versus share. I can't remember what it is. And it's the same concept. When you're in sell mode, it's the same for prospects, for potential people who are wanting to join your team. When you're in sell mode, you are in more of a aggressive or a pushy, or you've heard these terms in sales environments, right? Being a pushy salesman. And we always relate to car salesmen because of that. And I unfortunately hate doing that because I just feel like not all car salespeople are like that. And I don't think that they're like that as much anymore, but in the past, they've probably been more so. Having to convince I'm going to use the term prospect just for the terms of training, but somebody who's wanting to join or potentially wanting to buy your product, if you have to convince them that the product is for them or that the opportunity is for them, you're going to end up losing them in the long run, because what happens is, like I said, they get to a point where they decide, wait a minute, this doesn't really fit me. I don't really feel as though it's something that I really want. And so they start questioning their business. They start questioning the reason why they joined. They start questioning the reason why they bought something. And you've heard of the term buyer's remorse. That will happen 9 times out of 10 if you're convincing somebody that they need the product or they need to purchase your starter kit. Convincing versus guiding is more in the respects of the potential opportunity, the potential joiner of your business. It is important for us to truly find out at least the starting point of somebody's why. And one of the questions that I ask people often, and if you are a consultant under or in my team, then you've probably heard me ask you this, or I've taught you to ask people this. Why do you want to join Scentsy in the first place? What is it about Scentsy that intrigues you to have it in your life? And the answer to that is going to start drawing out your person's why. Now, I believe that most people don't truly understand or know what their why is. However, there's going to be a level to start with, and we always start with the reason why you're doing something. You know, I always say your why is going to make you cry. Your why is an emotional thing, not a person, place, or thing. So it's what's going to draw you out of bed every morning It's what's going to motivate you to do things every day. So it's our jobs, literally, to find out what it is in your potential recruit or your sponsor that, why do you want to join Scentsy in the first place? Why do you want to do this in the first place? And the answer, like I said, will be the beginning points of their why. And I'm not saying, if you've ever been through a Find Your Why session with me, you're not going to do that with a potential joiner. You're just not going to do that because you're going to scare them away. But you have the ability to get started and to start asking the questions that you need to ask in order to get to the deeper why. But they have to have an understanding of why they're doing this in the first place. Remember, it's, I've heard this acronym before, WIIFT. WIIFT. What's in it for them? And it's so important that you keep on that path about them versus you, and not do what I've said before about vomiting information, because when you do that, it becomes extremely overwhelming. Your person that's potentially going to join has no idea how this business works. They might, and you'll be lucky if they do. But the majority of people aren't going to understand what the next step is. They're not going to understand what they're supposed to be doing. We do, because we're in it. We understand the compensation plan because we live it. We're in it. We're doing it. We're earning it. But a potential recruit probably isn't going to understand you spitting out numbers at them right away unless they ask for it. Because at that point, once they've asked for it, they're ready to receive the information. But if you're just giving them information that they haven't asked for, they may not be ready to hear it, and they may not understand it, and it becomes overwhelming, and all of a sudden you get an answer like, well, I'm going to have to think about it. And then all of a sudden you don't hear from them for weeks, right? We've all had that happen. But it's so important for us to remember what is in it for them. And the only way that we know that is to ask them. And so we guide conversations versus trying to convince them. And the way to guide conversations is through asking questions and, more importantly, listening to their answers. We need to listen to people's answers so that we get guided in the conversation and that we can guide them through their concerns, their objectives, their objections, I should say, and objectives. What is it that they want out of this? And that's why I always say, what do you want out of Scentsy? What is the reason you're joining Scentsy in the first place? And those answers, if I listen properly, will help guide any questions or help answer any concerns that they may have. So it's not up to us to convince anybody to join our team or to buy our product. It isn't. And if you're doing that and they're buying, kudos to you, but it's not going to happen all the time, and it's not going to happen with everyone. And if you try to convince somebody to join, you're going to find that maybe at the beginning they're motivated, but somewhere along the way, they're going to lose that motivation if you don't figure out what their why is. Why are they doing this in the first place? What do they want to get out of it? What is in it for them? WIIFT. What's in it for them? Okay? So practice. Understand your business. And that will be the best tool that you have when you are having conversations with people that you want to have on your team. Tell them why you think that they would be great on your team. Explain to them, if you know them, why you feel that they would be a great consultant. I just spit. I don't know if you saw that. You need to tell them why you think that they would be a great consultant. Why they would be good at this. Why they should be doing what you're doing. Based on their character, based on their spirit, right? So let's remember that we're guiding conversations. We're not trying to convince people. We want to share, not sell. Those are all the same concepts. All the same concepts of needing to understand why somebody wants to do it in the first place and what's in it for them. another thing I want to add is that in other direct sales businesses, and I know that everybody has a different way of doing things, and I'm not saying that it's right or wrong because it could potentially work with that company. I've heard that you could potentially set up a call where you have your potential joiner, yourself, and one of your upline. Is that doable? It sure is. If you're not 100% sure about your business, maybe you're new to the business, maybe you're just, I don't know. I feel like that's not the best way to do things. And the only reason that I say that, and this again is my opinion, guys, this is not something that I am saying can't happen, because it certainly can, and I'm sure it is. But I feel that if you have what they call a three-way call and you have an upline talk to your potential joiner, one, it can be confusing to your potential joiner because they are not sure why you're not talking to them, since you're the one that they chose to talk to in the first place and not your upline. I think it could potentially be a overwhelming or maybe even an intimidating situation for your potential joiner, to have to talk to somebody that they don't know. I feel that it could be somewhat of a pressure cooker. You know, maybe, and I know it depends on how the upline is speaking to them, or how the potential, or how you, the consultant, is talking to them. But I don't know. I just feel like it could potentially be a very overwhelming and intimidating situation. However, that doesn't mean that you can't have somebody join you when you're, or have somebody come with you when you're meeting somebody in person. That I find would be a little less intimidating. Two, it could help if you are really unsure about the business. However, I feel that it could be taken advantage of if you, the consultant, doesn't want to have these joint conversations, and so you ask your upline to do it for you. So it could potentially be an easy way out. It could be a cop-out. And I wouldn't want that to happen. So very often, and I'll give you a very quick example, often people want me to go and do their first parties with them. I'm not opposed to that, but there isn't much that I would do at that party other than sit there and observe and maybe help them with questions, field questions. But I wouldn't do the party for them. And that's kind of what happens when you have an upline come and do the talking and do the, I don't know what companies do it, but I just recently read a book, and she talks about that in there, about how they've done that in their direct sales business. And I don't know that I agree with that, because I feel like in order for you, ask my kids, for me to teach them how to swim, I threw them in the water. I know that sounds rough, but they learned, and they talk about it to this day being a very fearful event, but coming up laughing out of the water. And they've told me that time and time again. You threw me in the water, I was scared but I came up giggling, and that's what exactly they did. So I just feel like if you handhold too much, it becomes expected, and then all of a sudden that's what you're doing for their career as a consultant with you, and they may end up fizzling out because you're not giving them enough hand-holding, so that's just a thought. I hope you found this helpful. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so that you know when more videos are coming out. Okay, have an amazing day, everyone, and go pay it forward with kindness, because that's the best thing to do. Bye.